Hello everyone, welcome to this React tutorial series. In this video, we will understand what React is, why it's so popular, why functional components have become the standard way of building React application. What is React? React is an open source JavaScript library developed by Facebook. It is designed to help developers build fast, interactive, reusable user interfaces. One of the biggest advantage of React is component-based architecture. Instead of writing one large application, we divide the user interfaces into small reusable components. Each component has its own responsibility, making the application easier to build, maintain, and scale as it grows. For example, in this page, we can assume this is one of a component. This box is one of a component. So in a single page application, we can have a multiple components which can be reused and interactive. Another important feature is a virtual DOM. Rather than updating the entire page whenever data changes, the React first updates a lightweight virtual copy of a DOM. DOM is nothing but in JavaScript, if you know document element. This is something, it's in the each component in HTML is called as a DOM. It then compares the changes and updates only the necessary elements in the browser. This makes React application much faster and more efficient. React is also used for building single page application. In a single page, you can navigate route into a different pages. Between different sections without the main advantages without reloading the entire page. You don't want to reload the entire page whenever you are doing some actions. That is a very important thing. Now we know what is React. Now let's look at how we can create components. In React, there are two ways to create components. One is class component, another one is functional components. Today, almost every modern React application uses functional components. Okay, the class component will be defined as a class, with the class name extends components, and it has a lot of states, everything we need to create something similar. It is little complex, where the functional components are a plain JavaScript function that return JXX to render the UI. For example, if you can see, this is one of a JavaScript function. The functional component will also something looks similar. If you can see here, function welcome, here it returns a h1 element. This is called as JSX, where you have your HTML element as your return statement. So here it is very important is their recommended approach for building React apps. Why we use them? What are the very use of this? Is we have hooks to support hooks, something like use state, use effect. Each has its one smaller advantage. For example, use state will use to store. For example, whenever a page loads, we will see type here. That is one of a state where you can have whenever after you type something, the the whatever the entered text will be stored. So that is the state. That is a one of an example for a state. So instead of you writing the code to support that, the hook supports that for you. So hook support, and it has less boilerplate code. You don't need to bind, you don't need constructors, you don't need anything. So it is very easier to develop and easier to test. As it is a function, it is very straightforward to state, as it will behave similar to the JavaScript. And this is a small example, that this is one of a small example for the function and component. You can include this in your index HTML like welcome tag. Then your first React application is ready with few lines of code.